Hi there, my name's Cathi from Software Solutions, and this is one of a collection of videos that goes with my Excel Level 2 functions, charts and more. And we're exploring a variety of functions that are really useful in Excel. We just in an earlier video looked at the VLOOKUP function. V because it's a vertical list. So the VLOOKUP function looks up a value in a table, in the leftmost column of a table, and returns information on the same row. Now the VLOOKUP is very popular in spreadsheet design, but it's not necessarily the best function to use. So what I'm going to do now is show you the lookup function. I'm going to take you to the sheet called lookup in the Excel 2 file that accompanies your notes. I'm just going to hold the control key and zoom in. We looked at the VLOOKUP. Let me just go back to here. The VLOOKUP, when I double click it, looks up A6, finds it in the leftmost column of this table, gives us back what's in column 2, and it does an exact match, which is false. That's got 1, 2, 3, 4 arguments. The lookup function only has 3, and in my mind, it's a lot simpler to write. Let me show you. So if I go to the lookup function, and let's start with typing something like 5,000 in here. In B6, I would put equals L, O, and double click lookup. It wants to know where's the value that you want to look up. Well, I want to look up what's in A6, comma. And then it says, well, where do I find that in the table? Well, that would be in F6 to F13. And I want to lock that in, so I press F4, comma. And then it says, if I look at A6 and I find it in the range F6 to F13, where is the related information that you want returned? Well, I'm after the description, so that would be in G6 to G13. And I press F4 to lock that in. And when I press enter, it says large gearbox. So in my mind, that's actually easier to write than we did in the last video when we looked at the VLOOKUP. I would then simply fill that down and then test it. Double click. And so if I type 2,000 in here, 4,000 in here, and if I type 8,000, it would say the nearest one. Now the VLOOKUP gave us the option false, where it had to be an exact match. This doesn't. It's going to find the closest one. So there is a difference straight away. 8,000 is not a cog, 7,000 is. Okay, and if we did the same for price and supplier, I would simply want to double click this formula. I might lock in just the A, so I'll press F4 1, 2, 3 times to lock in just the A. I don't want to lock in the 6. I want to lock in just the A, so I drag that now to the right to fill both columns. I double click this one, it looks at A6, finds it in F6 to I13, but I don't want to return what's in G6 to G13. I want to return the price, which is in the next column. So I drag that border over and OK. And this one here, I want to look at what's in A6, find it in F6 to F13, but I don't want what's in G, I want what's in I. So I move that over to I. And so then I can select these two, double click and fill them down. Okay, so you now know that you have the option of a VLOOKUP and you have the option of a lookup. A lookup is simpler to write, it only has 3 arguments, but there is the issue about it finding an exact match as opposed to finding the closest match. And go back to the video on VLOOKUP before this video if you need to jiggy your memory about that. But there's a new kid on the block called XLOOKUP. And really, XLOOKUP will eventually see the demise, I think, of the lookup and the VLOOKUP functions. They'll still be around, but they will start to peter in terms of their popularity. Let's go to the sheet called XLOOKUP 1, and I'm just going to zoom in on that. Now, the XLOOKUP is very, very similar, very, very easy to use, but it has a lot more power to it. And so what I'm going to do is put a number in here, so 5,000 again. And in B6, I'm going to go equals X. And if you don't see XLOOKUP there, then you don't have the right license. It is, like I said, the new kid on the block. So as people migrate more and more to the latest versions of Office, you will see XLOOKUP. If you don't have XLOOKUP, you're going to have to make do with VLOOKUP and LOOKUP until such time. But if you do have XLOOKUP, then you have the latest version of Office and you can double click it. Now, this has a lot of things. 1, 2, 3 arguments, like the lookup function, at least, are required. But optionally, there's another 3 as well, which we'll have a look at. First thing we want to say is, what value do you want to look up? Well, I want to look up what's in A6. And I'm going to press the F4 key 1, 2, 3 times just to look in the A, because I know I have intentions of dragging this to the right and I don't want the A to change. But I do also have intentions of dragging it down, and I do want the 6 to change. So I don't want to look in the 6, I only want to look in the A. Then I'm going to press comma, and it basically says, where am I going to find this 5,000, this value in A6? Well, it will find that in F6 to F13, and I'll lock that in, comma. And then where is the range that has the value you want returned? Well, I want the description returned, so I'm going to select this range here and lock it in. So basically, it's the same as the lookup function that we just did at this point in time. And I'll press enter. And there's my large gearbox. I'll fill it on down. I'll chuck some values in just to check it's working. 2,000, 4,000, 8,000. Not available. That's a better reaction than the lookup function. That's more like the VLOOKUP function. 8,000 doesn't exist. It's not available. So the lookup found the closest and said cog. I'm going to change that to 7,000, knowing I did a typo. Now I'm going to fill this to the right. Just drag that across. Double click this one. This one's returning what's in column G. I want to return what's in column H, so I just move that over. Enter. Double click. This is returning that, and I want to return that, enter. And so I've done my XLOOKUP. Perfect. So what does it have over the VLOOKUP that would make you want to move towards it? Well, 1, it only requires 3 arguments instead of 4. But the most important thing, I think, is the XLOOKUP doesn't require the part number to be the first column or the leftmost column in your table. The VLOOKUP totally 100% requires the part number to be the leftmost column in the table, which often results in us having to rearrange data and sort data if we're doing an approximate match, and it's a lot of jiggy-wiggy with the data. If you don't want to jiggy-wiggy, then use the XLOOKUP. I'm just going to go to XLOOKUP 2. I'll just hold the control and zoom in, where I've interchanged these two. The part number is no longer the first column. Let's test it. So 5,000 goes into A6 and B6 equals XLOOKUP. Look up what's in A6, F4, 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 comma, and it says, where do you want to find it? Well, I would now want to find it in G6 to G13. Press F4 to lock it in, comma, and I would want return the description, which is an F. F4 to lock it in. So now I'm saying, look at the second column, return what's in the first column. That's huge in terms of being useful. Now also, if I go comma, it says, what if it's not found? Instead of NA, what do you want to say? I'm just going to put double quote, invalid part number, if it's not found. Double quote, close bracket, enter. Fill it on down, test the theory, 2,000, 4,000, 8,000, invalid part number. That you don't get with VLOOKUP, that you don't get with lookup. It now has intelligent way of handling something that's not valid. And so I'll look at that and go, oh, I meant 7,000. Boom. Fill it across again, easy peasy. Double click this one, move this over. This is the price. And, oops, hang on a minute. What did I do? Look up the part number, look up A6. Oh, I moved the wrong one. Move that over to there, and then that. Look up A6, find it in G6, yes, and return what's in not F, but in H. Enter. Double click this one, and return what's in not F but I, enter, and then fill those both down. So intelligent handling of invalid data, not requiring that the part number has to be the first column and sorted. Only 3 arguments, the ticks are starting to go up for the XLOOKUP. But wait, there's more. The next thing I want to show you is it can also handle not a vertical list, but a horizontal list. Whereas the VLOOKUP only handles a vertical list, and then there's a separate function called HLOOKUP, which handles a horizontal list. The XLOOKUP, let's go to XLOOKUP 3, handles both. Here's a horizontal list. Let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see. Okay, let's start a part number in here. Let's go equals X, double click XLOOKUP, look up the value in A6, press F4 3 times to look in the A, comma. Where is the range that it will find the part number? Well, it'll find the part number in this range here, which is G6 to N6, press F4 to lock it in, comma. And where is the range that contains what you're after? I'm after the description, which is above that, in G5 to N5, F4 to lock it in, comma, double quote, invalid part number, or just invalid if they type something incorrect, enter. Large gearbox, fill that on down, test the theory, 2000, 8000, invalid, 6000, let's break it. Fill that to the right, boom, boom, double click this one. And this one we move this down to here because I'm after the price. And this one we move this down to here because I'm after the supplier. Select the 2 of them, fill it on down, boom. Only handles 3 arguments. Doesn't matter if it's not the leftmost column. Sensible handling of invalid results. And what's more, it can handle a horizontal list instead of a vertical list. There are so many more advantages to this particular function, and this is why it will be the demise of the VLOOKUP and the lookup function. I have got one more that I'd like to show you. I'm just going to go to XLOOKUP 4 and zoom in on this. What we have here is if somebody receives a score 0 to 50, that's a fail. Between 50 and 60 is a D. 60 and 70 is a C. 70 and 80 is a B. And greater than 80 is an A as far as a grade goes. Let's handle this applying a grade to each of these results using an XLOOKUP just to be different. So I'm going to go equals XLOOKUP. Double click XLOOKUP. Where's the value I want to look at? I want to look at this value, comma. Where's the range in which you want to compare it? I want to compare it with these percentages here, F4, comma. Where is the range that has what you want returned? That would be the grades, F4, comma. What do you want to do if it's not valid or it's not found? That's not likely in this case, so I'm just going to skip it by putting another comma, which moves me into the match mode. We've looked at an exact match as a thing. There's also a wildcard, which is the closest match. But what I want to do is find the next smaller item. So that would be a -1, or just double click it. You've even got search modes, such as search first to last or last to first, but I don't need that either. And so I'll close the bracket. A lot of power behind this function. Find out more about it. You'll really like it if you're in the business of looking up information. When I press enter, this person gets an A, and when I double click to fill it down, these are the grades that they get. So it finds the closest. So if you've got these bands, then you can actually find the next smallest and it will go through and assign a grade to each result. Explore the XLOOKUP function. It's great. If you don't have the XLOOKUP function, it's only a matter of time. You'll have to deal with the VLOOKUP and the lookup until then. If you have the choice, then probably lean towards the XLOOKUP rather than the VLOOKUP. But if you're dealing with spreadsheets in which VLOOKUPs have already been used and you're now having to maintain them or keep the momentum going, then you'll need to understand that VLOOKUP. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like or subscribe. Please come back and watch some more of my videos. The next lot of videos I'm going to create, the next video I'm going to create is to do with text functions. Ka kite.